But you know what, people? Sometimes you just got to live life too.
Sometimes you got to spend money. And not just to make money, but spend money for
To have an enjoyable
enjoyment.
life.
Yeah.
And we talk about progress over perfection. And as you make progress, sometimes you got to have little check ins with yourself. And I'm not saying that people should just be like, you know what, throw my plan to the wind. I'm going to go and just reward myself. I'm not talking about that.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
Welcome. This is For Better and Worth.
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it. Hey, babe, how you doing today?
Hey, I kind of feel like I'm fighting being under the weather, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've noticed that you were not feeling your very best, but you know what?
Yeah.
Got to make the donuts, so here we are, folks.
I know, like come rain or shine.
That's right. It's
We
time
are
to make the
here.
donuts.
So the reality is you press through, but all is well. All is well. I had a good day. I will say I had a good 24 hours because I had a delivery, a webinar delivery for a client, and it went well. And so there's
That's
always
good. It's always good.
it always is a highlight for the week when you get good work done.
It's always good. I think it's funny that phrase, it's time to make the donuts. A lot of people may not even remember that, but that used to be the old Dunkin' Donuts slogan. And I mean, donuts are good, but I don't even really eat donuts.
I would love to have an old fashioned donut right now, to be honest with you. That might be a part of my breakfast tomorrow. Now that you brought it up.
You know what? Treat yourself.
Yeah, why don't you go get me a donut?
Well, I got a road trip. But
I know. Why don't you go get me a donut before you go?
But I think that sets this episode up, and we talk a lot about money and relationships and, building your net worth. But you know what, people? Sometimes you just got to live life too.
Sometimes you got to spend money. And not just to make money, but spend money for
to
enjoyment.
have an enjoyable life.
Yeah.
And, we talk about progress over perfection. And as you make progress, sometimes you got to have little check-ins with yourself. And I'm not saying that people should just be like, you know what, throw my plan to the wind. I'm going to go and just reward myself. I'm not talking about that.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. So if you're listening, don't feel like I'm about to throw my plan away and just go ball out. That is not what we're talking about. But we recently made a decision to take a trip. And now, having just recently come back, I can't even call it a trip. It was go and have an experience.
It was a whole experience.
Yes.
So let's be clear. This was our most expensive vacation ever.
Yeah.
Far in life.
Yeah, it was, you know what? It was well worth it.
Yes, but I mean, I think we need to be clear that it wasn't just a vacation. I think that it needs to be said that it was not an easy yes on this vacation. It came with prayer.
It came with a lot of trepidation.
It did. It came with, am I crazy? Are you crazy? Is there any other thing we could do? Should we wait? It came with putting things off. We mulled over this for some months. And and we still decided to spend the money.
Yeah, but I really think that, when you're making a decision that is a big decision that involves a significant purchase, you should take time.
Yeah.
You should deliberate and count the costs.
Yes.
You should figure out if it makes sense to do it or to not do it. And then going through that process, figure out the pros, the cons, the yays, the nays, and just be methodical about your decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
And so just kind of to set it up, our youngest daughter, she did I don't know if we can really call it a study abroad because it was a short.
It was a culmination of a course that she took in her second year of college. And so it was basically the last 10 days of the course, and she has to write a paper on this.
Yeah, it was a trip abroad. It was a trip abroad, a study abroad experience, and our oldest daughter did that, and we followed her where she went and had a whole huge family vacation, which that was another great experience that we have as a family. And so, she chose several locations that she could go to, 1, 2, and 3, and she got her number one selection. And that trip was to South Africa.
Yes. So when she called us and said that she had been accepted into the program, which means the class and then the study abroad, our first words were, "Oh, we going to South Africa." Not you going, but
like, we going.
All of us going, because that's what we do.
Right. We went just straight back. We going. We
going
to South Africa.
Right. So we sort of bombarded her trip. We piggybacked off of her.
It took a little while. We eventually gave it back to her so she could have the trip. But
did we give it back to her? What does that mean?
I mean, we bombarded her, but then we kind of gave it back to her.
I had to ask her, did she feel okay? Because did she want to have this experience all to herself?
Well, she didn't say that when we went to Paris. So
no, they didn't
have
say
many
that.
objections.
But I did check in because, we sort of, it was sort of a takeover moment.
Yeah, we sort of bum rushed her.
Yeah, that might be the word. I like that word.
We were like, are we going on this trip?
She was there for 10 days prior to our arrival. And then we added on basically another 12 days for her. And it was spectacular.
Yeah, and I think she was really excited about it, and we got excited about it, but boy, oh boy, did it surpass our expectations. And look, we'll get to that part of it. But
yes,
I think the big thing is people would probably say, well, how did you do it? Because we did it debt free. We came back, we don't have any lingering debt. We're going to, pay some final bills from it, but there'll be zero that we owe on this trip. And if you're going to make a decision to do something, that's the way we want you to do it. We want you to save up. We want you to be intentional. And just to, we say keep it 100. It took us a few months to decide if we were going to go or not, because we had the plan that we were going to remodel our bathrooms.
Yeah, we had money that we were essentially going to use for other purposes within our home.
Mm-hmm. A remodel project.
And we were not going to be taking money from savings in order to do this. But we had already allotted dollars for a remodel. And we had to decide. Like, I remember the moment when we were like, first of all, are we willing to push off or give up for this year that particular goal that we had? And basically, we wanted to do it last year.
Yeah.
We already pushed it off because we didn't want to take on debt.
Well, we pushed the remodel project off from last year to this year.
And so then we would be pushing it again. And so we had to have that conversation because that's where the money was going to come from.
Yeah.
And then decide, were we even going to spend said money? Because that was a big deal. We literally had to get some coaching from some other friends. Like, I mean, how did that make you feel? Do you feel like that was helpful when we called a friend?
I think that the thing that I took from this is we really just, we slowed down, because you can be really excited about something and want to do it and then just run off and do it and make a poor decision.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I took from it is that we slowed down and we were just like, okay, let's think this through. You can't do everything all at once.
Or all the time.
Right, sure, we'll get to the remodel project, but we can't do it all at once and sacrifice our savings for something that is literally not an emergency.
It's a luxury. Let's be clear.
Right. Both things, the bathroom remodels and the trip.
It is a
it's
want versus
extra.
a need.
It is extra. And we talked about being content, and contentment can cause you to not slow down and think things through, or a lack of contentment
Right.
can cause you to not slow down and think things through. But because I think we've been in that mindset, it's like, okay, well, hold on. Let's just really think about this and be methodical. Like, okay, if we don't do the bathrooms, then that may come at another time. But I think the thing that made the difference for me was one, well, there were a couple things. One, we had the money. So it was like, okay, we can afford to do it because we have the money. And two, we said, if not now, then when?
Yes.
Because our kids are getting older and life circumstance comes along and it begins to change. And then if you don't do it at this time, circumstance and situations could be different, and it could be like, well, we can't do it later, or we'll push it. Oh, well, something happened, we can't do it then. And so I think that's the couple things that stood out for me. But, what were you thinking during this decision-making process as we were going through this to try and figure out to go or not to go?
My biggest thing was that I didn't want to part with the money. I want the experience.
That's facts.
I have a hard time spending large sums of money. I get
on virtually anything.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is.
I get nervous. I get uncomfortable. I do not have the adrenaline rush. I'm not interested in expensive things. I like, certain dollar amounts are much easier for me, so I learned about myself that I'm at a threshold. So when we were talking to our friends, because we phoned a friend, and I can't even remember what made us want to have like a deeper conversation, but we trust them. Do you remember?
I do. I think you sometimes need someone who's not close to the situation.
And I don't think people do that enough. I actually don't think that people would call a friend, because we do have friends who are going to be like, yeah, just do it, just spend the money. But we knew that this particular couple would walk us through a questioning journey that would help us gain some insight.
Yeah, you got to have some good people in your life that can kind of help you navigate some things sometimes. And though we knew, it wasn't the money, we had the money, we could do it, but it was like, well, neither of us really wanted to spend it.
And it was in that conversation that I realized that there is a threshold that I have. So, if it were the amount we spent on a previous vacation, clearly I would probably have been okay with that. Right. But because, quite frankly, it was double the amount we've spent on a different vacation, it was jumping. It was leaping to a level that I hadn't been at, and that made me uncomfortable and nervous. And it was that conversation. But just as you said, I think I relaxed and really started to get excited when I realized, what if this opportunity passed us by? Would I actually be okay if it never happened? And I realized I would not be okay.
And I think that's where you have to, when you're making the decision, you really have to sometimes just press pause. That's the way I would like to say. Press pause and then figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And in that slowing down process, it's very helpful to just consider all the pros and cons. And I think one thing that we did was we said, okay, before we make a decision, let's just at least get all the facts. Mm-hmm. So we went out, we got 3 quotes.
And surprisingly, for the trip. They were exactly the same.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me when they all came back and they had virtually the same things, little slight nuances that were different. Mm-hmm. But the price, I was like, the price for a couple of the quotes were identical.
And I have to
say, they didn't know about each other.
They didn't. They had no affiliation. And I have to say, my hat is off to you, because you did quite a bit of work. I got the first quote and I was like, whoa, really? And then you reached out and got a couple more. And honestly, you did a lot of the lead work. You typically do all of the lead work for the vacation, and I sort of manage the financial part of it and that. and you
right.
did.
That's what makes us a good team.
Come on. Hey, give me 5 on that. But like, yeah, we were really surprised, and we had to come to terms with this is how much it would be. I mean, literally, this is. So let's talk about it.
I think the funny thing to me was, I'm putting my little bougie hat on right now.
Wait, you had it off. Let's
pump the brakes. Okay.
wait. Tell me
what we're not gonna do.
Where is the hat so we can put the bougie
do,
hat on? But I thought it was on already.
What we're not gonna do is be on this guy's back. Okay.
Okay. So bougie Chris, here he is. Now what?
But we were looking at the airfare and travel and looking at seats on the plane, and we had made a decision that we were going elevate a little bit because it's long flights.
No. You.
Yeah, well, I made the decision.
I
didn't consult anyone else on this portion.
Let's be clear who did that.
Trip. I said, so we're going to elevate a little bit. And I was willing to spend the amount for the elevated tickets. Mm-hmm. And the agent came back and said, I have bad news. Those prices have significantly gone up by the tune of like $1,200 increase. I was like, we might not be going to Africa now. The trip might be over.
but
over before it even started.
Yeah, we were getting a little high on ourselves.
Yeah, so we were brought back down to reality, and we said, you know what?
We suffered with
economy,
the commoners.
It'll be.
We suffered with the commoners and the peasants in economy on 20-hour flights to South Africa.
You're talking about me. You just said we suffered with the commoners and the peasants. Did you hear yourself?
I mean, you said you was bougie. I'm married to you. You the one who sought it out to begin with. I'm just saying.
My knee don't work the same way it used to.
Wait, hold on. Why was my knee swollen for like 5 days? So my leg, my ankles. Like really, I got cankles. But anyway, it was worth the trip. Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about the trip.
Let's talk about the trip.
You knew the itinerary backwards and forward before we went, and the rest of us. So we had our daughter come in from Minneapolis, and then
hold on. Before you even go there,
what?
We took the trip like we just got back from this trip.
Yes,
and it is May. Okay.
Yes.
And so I sent the itinerary out in January.
Okay, no. We didn't book the trip. Let's be clear. We didn't fully book the trip until March.
I sent the itinerary in January.
When we got the quote, yes, you sent it out.
I said,
and I even did a detail. Let me see how many meals are included in this itinerary. All of that. I did all that, and then I promptly didn't look at it again.
Right. That's what I'm just saying. I gave you all the details.
So
you all chose not to look at it.
So I looked at it briefly. But I knew the gist of what was happening, okay?
Right. But anyway.
Because you planned the whole thing. You were intimately involved.
Let's talk about the trip.
But we flew in our oldest daughter, and then we were meeting our youngest who had already been there for 10 days. And so the three of us were traveling together. And, gosh, I forgot what I was going to say.
I mean, it was great. Like
No. Yeah, so let's talk about the itinerary itself.
Yeah, it was great because, like she said, our youngest was there, our oldest was traveling with us, and we were flying to London, and we flew to London, and we were getting a twofer. We were getting 2 trips for one because we had a very long layover in London, and it's like, well, look, we going to London, we going to Africa, we doing it all, and literally we landed in London, stored our backpacks, and hit the streets.
Yeah, we went and we were able to visit Windsor Castle and
we went and saw where the Queen lives.
Yes. Yeah, actually where she spent some of her final days. Yeah, so that was really interesting.
That's pretty awesome.
And then that whole little cute city over there. And then we were able to fly. So we flew to London and that was long, overnight. And then we had another overnight to Cape Town, South Africa. And then essentially, big picture, we spent, 5 days in Cape Town and 6 days in Johannesburg. Or vice versa, whatever. And
all I can say is it was awesome.
It was amazing.
It exceeded all of my expectations. And I think whatever your dream trip is or whatever experience you're looking to have, just set your sight on it, because we'd always talked about taking a trip to Africa, but we could take 10 more trips to Africa and not even scratch the surface of all there is to see there.
So let me ask you this.
This sounds like a setup.
I know.
This sounds like a setup. You already know.
Okay.
You trying to set me up.
No, but okay, because now I'm kind of hooked. I think there's so much to explore in Africa. I'm curious on how long you think it'll take us to go back.
Oh, I mean, we'll be back in a few years, I'm sure.
You think so?
I'm sure.
Okay. Yay!
Yeah, I'm sure. There was
This is being recorded.
Yeah, there's so much to see and so much to do that you could have a totally different trip.
So let's give a little synopsis of what we did. So when we got to Cape Town, we had 2 days before our actual guided tours began.
We hung out a little bit.
Yeah, we did. They actually have great shopping. I think Cape Town is a whole lot like LA.
It reminded me a lot of LA with kind of the houses had like tile roofs.
Yeah.
And it looked kind of like
West
Arizona.
Coast, Arizona, yeah.
I was like, are we in Africa?
I know. And it was mountainous, very mountainous and picturesque, but it's also on the coast, which is
but it was
like
beautiful.
LA.
It was beautiful.
So yeah, it was lovely. And but we did like tours. We did Robben Island, where Mandela was held for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
We
went to Table Mountain, which is a huge mountain range that's there.
Yeah.
I think the good thing is that, a lot of people think vacation, they think, oh, the beach, you're going to relax, you're going to kick back. And this trip had all the elements, because we learned historical things about South Africa. We learned, historical things about what Mandela went through. We were able to enjoy the natural beauty.
We ate good food.
Yeah, we went to the botanical garden, so we could like really learn about the horticulture there. And
we talked to locals. Like we had a local guide, and he took us on drives into some of the neighborhoods so that we can see, how people really live in Africa, because Cape Town is very, very touristy.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the part of Cape Town that we were in, was definitely the tourist trap,
driven by tourism.
Right.
Yes,
there are different neighborhoods that had we got a little bit away from the water, we could have had a very different experience that would have not been as touristy.
Yeah,
but hey, I enjoyed myself, and I think the big thing that I really want people to take away from it is like, progress over perfection, and you got to enjoy the journey as you're taking it. And this was one of those things on our journey that, we definitely enjoyed that piece of it.
And then after Cape Town, we flew to Johannesburg. Mm-hmm. And again, we had a museum visit, and we walked through one of
Mandela's home that he lived in, and
we were in Soweto, and we saw the street that Trevor Noah grew up on. It was really neat.
Shout out Trevor Noah.
Yes,
we rode by your crib.
Sure did. And then then we just saw like how the people lived, which is it's important to have like in your face the reality of how people are living. And I think that a lot of people probably wouldn't want to deal with some of that on vacation, but I think that it was really important. So we got like the history, the reality, we got the beauty.
I think vacations are always helpful in giving you added perspective.
We take educational vacations though.
Yeah. Well, we relax.
We do both.
Yeah.
But
this trip had a lot of components to it.
Yes.
But I always feel like no matter where we go, I want to get some perspective on how people live there. I always ask questions about incomes and cost of living
and the politics,
real estate and politics, because I want to get a better understanding culturally of how people in different parts of the world live. And it gives, us and, our kids an appreciation for the life that we've been blessed to live here in these good old United States of America.
No, he didn't. America. So I know. I guess I'm gonna assume. You tell me, is this true? Your most favorite thing was the private game reserve drive.
Well, we didn't even tell him that. We didn't even say anything about that. But
I know.
We did safari.
We did 2 safaris. We went to Kruger and then we went to a private game reserve, and they were absolutely phenomenal.
My goodness, yes, that was the highlight for me.
Yeah.
You know, but I never knew that danger was something that I thrived. But when I'm in the Jeep and I'm like, there's a lion 6 feet away, I was like, what are we doing
What are we doing here? But we are thrill seekers. We've always been.
Yeah, but I was in the Jeep like, we shouldn't be here.
I know, but we were.
What are we doing?
We were with people.
This is crazy.
We were with people who knew what to expect and all of that. I don't think I was afraid as much as I was like nervous. Like, what?
You know what? I won't even say I was afraid. I was actually shocked
that we were doing that.
No, I was shocked that the animals, like, they don't even recognize you as there.
They don't even care about you.
Like, the lion is like, oh, that's just a big rock. It's just a big, structure. And he didn't recognize us as...
Or he didn't care that there were people. Because
that was interesting.
We weren't getting out of the vehicle at any point when we were close to animals. Animals were there, and they might have seen the vehicle we were in, but they didn't come to us.
Yeah, what we're not gonna do is get out the Jeep when the lions are over there.
Now, we did get out the Jeep and we saw the cheetah.
And I was like,
that was crazy.
I'm without words.
I was without words too. They tricked us because we thought we were going to see a snake. Not that I wanted to get out the Jeep for that either, but
I wasn't sure what we were going to see. But then we walked up on the on the cheetah. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, backpedal.
Of all the animals, the fastest one.
I was like, backpedal.
But she again just sat there so regally, like, yeah, look at me, here I am. I'm beautiful.
Yeah, and our safari guys told us, don't bend over.
Don't talk loud.
Yeah, don't make yourself look small.
Yeah.
So I was like, look swole up.
While we try and take our pictures and videos.
And I'm like, take a picture real quick. Get it.
It was amazing. And so I absolutely want to go on another safari. Like, I literally... I just completely enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I definitely think that that lit a fuse, and it was like you get the bug. It's like, man, we ain't been on safari in a year.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
When we're going back.
So immediately when we got to the private game reserve, and I saw how beautiful, even the setting. Like we slept in glorified tents. They were.
It was almost like a yurt.
It was a yurt that was off the ground. Let's say
an elevated yurt.
Yeah, and it was like glamping, right, in the safari.
It was pretty awesome.
It was awesome. But I said when we got to that place, I said, you done messed up, right? You done messed up, right? Because you done planned out. Like, let's go back to the beginning. Mr. Young planned this trip and signed on the dotted line. And all four of us are very happy. But you made this thing happen. So when we come back wanting to go on another safari,
I'm gonna say,
don't be mad. Don't be mad. God did. Of course, God did it. But I'm just saying, So
I gotta pull my Khaled out. I'm gonna have to just keep that on rewind. God did.
Yes, God did,
and
God gonna do it again.
But I think, as we...
Why are you ignoring me?
Because I can't pay you no attention right now, I'm still feeling the heat from...
I know.
From this last trip.
We're a little hot over here. We're gonna have a real cooling off session, okay, for about 30 days.
But I really just feel like when people are in the midst of trying to either right the ship, by getting rid of debt, getting a plan in place and living on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, that you can only focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want people to set, like create the vision and give yourself something to strive towards, something to look forward to. And, we're still on our journey and we're at a different place than you may be at, but there's somebody who's at a different place. They're further ahead than we are. And so I think when you have like that vision and you can have that thing that you set your sight on, it just helps the process as you work the process to, eliminate debt, build wealth, create generational wealth, and put yourself in a position to give and have impact in this life.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what we are all seeking to do, is to have impact in life, and not just me, my wife, my two kids, us four, and no more.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have impact beyond that.
Yeah.
And so when you think about us taking this trip, I want to have impact. I want to have something to set my sights on. I mean, when you frame it in a bigger picture, how do you choose to frame that?
I just want to have a global perspective. I just want to constantly be reminded that there's more, like you said, than our four, but also the way that we live is just a blessed life. Like the fact that we were born free in a country where possibilities are endless, and that may not always be the same for other people. We learned quite a bit about, you know, the way that people live. Sometimes those situations are out of their hands, and so that global perspective helps you to really just know, have an attitude of gratitude, and just know that your situation is not the only way that it is to live. And then also, like, the world is so big. It's so big. It's so vast.
Politically, there's a lot going on there that it's kind of out of people's control, but the people have to, naturally vote and get involved and get engaged. And
we saw the political corruption. I mean, you can physically see it, and that was some of the hard stuff that was there to witness. But I think that if we can continue to broaden our perspective, that can help us to become, much better people. And also, it helps us to relate better to all kind of humans.
That's what I like the most about this trip, is that it had so many different components.
Yeah.
Because like we said a moment ago, it had the education, it had the landscape, it had, the adventure with the safaris. We got, some spa treatments in there.
It had the music and the dancing.
Relax. It had great food. It had so many things. We met some great people on our journey who were fellow travelers that were part of our group.
Yeah.
I mean, it had so much. And, we learned about the political environment and, how people are trying to find their way.
Yeah.
And there are so many parallels between what's going on there and what has gone on historically in the United States and some of the things that are going on now politically. And we won't get into that, but I just think it was such a rich trip that the money at this point is kind of like a hindsight.
All right, so the real drum roll question: was it worth it?
Oh man, yes, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
When I even tally it up and figure out how much we spent, I was like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, because honestly, we did spend more than we thought we would.
Yeah.
We spent a little bit more than we thought we would.
We could have bought a nice car.
Okay, that's enough. That's
but
that's
whatever.
Enough. What do you always say? When the money is gone, it's gone. So let's let the money be gone, baby, because we had an amazing experience. So
won't he do it?
Yes, he
God is gonna bless us.
But I think my hope is that there are some visions, some goals, some exciting things that you want to do in your life that makes being debt-free worth it, that makes saving on a routine basis worth it, that makes maybe saying no to something so you can say yes to something else.
Finish your thought, but I got something.
20 years ago, when we were getting out of debt or finishing up our debt, this is one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we could do. Now, we didn't know this specific trip would happen in this way, but we wanted the freedom to be able to say yes. And that is the hope that I have for our listeners.
So what just came to me, I was reminded that we were with a group of people, and we were like the youngest people in this group.
Yeah.
And there were people in the group who literally were going to be traveling like several trips a year.
Because they were retired.
They're retired, but they have put in the work on the front side. And clearly they don't have debt. They have the means by which to travel and do it. And they're taking trips and gone for a month at a time. And it was encouraging to me because I said, if these people can do it, these people can do it. And so literally that's why we chose to talk about this and just share, because if these people can do it, you can do it too.
And our guide, I just have to say this, I thought this was amazing. You told me this, that our guide had never seen, in all of his years working as a tour guide, he's never seen a whole Black family from America come on one of these safari trips. Yeah. And he'll see.
He was encouraged by that.
Yeah, and he'll see, couples or friends, but not all four people in the family. And because it's expensive and it's a sacrifice. And
look, we'll get to them bathrooms later.
What bathrooms?
The remodel.
Oh yeah. I know our sacrifice wasn't, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a huge sacrifice, but in terms of him saying that was huge.
Yeah,
that was
impactful, and and it was impactful in that I always want to be that guide or be that light that people can see, and to go halfway around the world and for him to be encouraged by that, just that thing, I think that says a lot.
It does.
And so I just want to continue to be able to do that and just, live our best life and do what it is that we do. And it was a tremendous amount of fun.
Yes, it was. So I don't know. I feel like, did we already say our Make It Worth It?
We did. We did. It was absolutely worth it.
Absolutely worth it. So make it happen.
Yeah. So until next time,
we're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on ForBetterAndWorth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.